Welcome to Twin Peaks Unwrapped. I'm your host, Ben Durant, and beside me is...
Brian Kazaska.
Hi, Brian. Happy Twin Peaks Day.
Oh, happy Twin Peaks month, because that's what we've been doing all month long here at Twin Peaks Unwrapped with 25 Years Later Sight. This is the last week.
And this week we've got Andrew and Caemeron. All right, we're here with Andrew from 25 Years Later Sight. Hey, Andrew.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Great.
Good.
It's going really good. So all month long we've been talking with your team about their Twin Peaks article, and you're now got some stuff that you're putting out as well.
Yeah, I actually have 2 articles coming out on the 24th.
Oh, nice.
Actually, on Twin Peaks Day.
Nice. And one of them I think is on Fire Walk with Me.
Yeah, I'm looking back at Fire Walk with Me, which it is my favorite part of the Twin Peaks narrative still. I know everyone's kind of partial to whether it's the original series or the film, or some people season 3. And at heart, I think I'm still a Fire Walk with Me guy, so I kind of jumped at this opportunity. And then my article is looking at my favorite moments of Laura Palmer.
Nice.
Fire Walk with Me is my favorite as well. I think that is my favorite part of the whole Twin Peaks thing.
I almost feel weird saying it's my favorite because it's such a heavy film, but all things considered, like, it's hard to verbalize.
Yeah.
You know, the emotion behind the Laura Palmer story, the intrigue behind scenes like with Philip Jeffries and the FBI offices in Philadelphia. It really does have it all. It has the mind-bending aspects that we love. I kind of look at Fire Walk with Me as the ultimate blend of the original series and season 3. It's that meeting point where you get the raw emotion and you get the things that just absolutely blow your mind and make you want to theorize.
You're absolutely right about that. It is the heavier one, but I do like that blend. Getting into Laura's life, I think that's what I really like to see, because you go through season 1 and 2 not knowing much about her, only what other people are saying about her, and actually seeing her life in front of you on screen, and her performance, Shirley's performance, and I also like all the background things that have happened with that film. I think makes that film even more special. Now, are you covering any of the behind-the-scenes stuff? This is purely just about the narrative?
It's pretty much about the narrative, and then also how it ties into the larger narrative.
You know, it's hard to wrap your brain around Fire Walk with Me and the return, especially with that ending with Fire Walk with Me, because I think the ending is so good in Fire Walk with Me.
Yeah.
It is. It's really had me questioning a lot of the things that I believe in, and I'm not a pure theory guy like a John Bernardi is. You know, theory is not my forte. I'm a little bit more into the characters and to the analysis and kind of looking at the emotion behind it, but it's seeing how Fire Walk with Me fits into the overall narrative after seeing season 3 was something that really interested me. A lot of people questioned what happened to the ending of Fire Walk with Me after what we saw in season 3, and that's something that I wanted to explore.
Yeah, I'm excited to read this, because when we had John on, he gave us his idea was like, flip it. Cooper is not the bad guy, but he's doing something where Laura's like, leave me alone. I'm dead. You know, you saved me in a way. I saved myself, but you keep coming back, and I want to escape you. You know, like, you think you're doing the right thing, but he's not. He's trying to change things, but it's not going to happen. And when he mentioned that, it was like, wow, I never looked at it that way. To see Cooper as like this person's like, I gotta fix things, but there's nothing there to fix.
It's funny. I wrote an article 6-7 months ago called "Don't Take the Ring, Laura," where I really dove into the aspect of what did the ring mean? What did it mean to Laura? Why did she take it? What did it mean for what happened to her after she died? And how did Cooper play into that? And that, I think, was kind of my entry point into wanting to write another theory. It was funny because John was kind of teasing me. He's like, you're not a theory guy. He's like, but I can't wait to read this. And I had a blast doing it. Him and I, a lot of times we'll get to the same conclusion, but we have such different ways of getting there, which makes our conversations really fun.
Yeah.
I do tend to agree with that overall analysis that Laura's ending wasn't invalidated. I still think that she had that ending. And Cooper definitely complicates things, but I don't think that it's out of any malicious intent. I think that it's definitely a lack of knowing.
Yes.
Is probably the best way that I can put it.
Totally agree. Yeah.
So how is this article structured?
This article, I really wanted to acknowledge the emotion behind it first. So that's kind of where I started, was just some of these moments that really, really tugged on the heartstrings. And that I also acknowledged the fact that I had not seen Fire Walk with Me in a while. So I was kind of getting back into that world. There was a period in my life where I watched Fire Walk with Me more times than I care to admit. It was just one of those movies that was always on. And over the past few years, that just hasn't been the case, and it was kind of a cool break from it. But, for example, right before Laura dies, when Leland is running her and Ronette to the train car, she screams, "Daddy." And that was something I didn't remember her screaming that, and it broke my heart. Just the idea of this 17-year-old, 18-year-old girl screaming "Daddy," knowing what was about ready to happen. It was one of those moments where I actually had to pause the film and internalize that. And, I've seen it a million times. I knew exactly what was going to happen. But Cheryl Lee screaming "Daddy" just floored me. So a lot of this article is dedicated to the emotion behind the film and just really taking time to appreciate what happened, as well as getting into the narrative aspect that we spoke of earlier.
It's funny you mentioned Daddy. The first thing I could think of it was season 2. Leland is being interrogated for the death of Jacques, and it starts off with that you're in the tile and you're coming out of the tile and you realize it's the interrogation and you hear the "Daddy, Daddy," and it's just like understanding that is like, could that be him hearing Laura calling out to him?
It's weird because I don't remember her saying that.
I know. I got to go back and see.
I know, but so Andrew, a quick question though, not to stray off the subject. Have you seen Fire Walk with Me in the theater? Or
no, I've never seen it in the theater.
You know what's weird? When Ben and myself, we saw it in the theater before the return. I saw it twice at home, and Ben, I'm sure, seen it countless times. But in the theater, with the volume so loud, we heard things. Like you probably with a good sound system at home, crank it up. But we heard things, and Ben was like, "I never heard these things before."
Yeah.
And
25 years later, and things I didn't realize was in the film.
And the ending, I still say this. At the ending, it is definitely David Bowie's character, Jeffries, saying Judy. And I'm like, Ben, I never heard it that way. It's really Jeffries. Later on, the movie had aired on TV, the subtitles, someone posted on Twitter. Sabrina said, no, it should not say it's not him saying it. But I don't care. I heard his voice say Judy. And
it still makes perfect sense. He says he's gone to when he's in the FBI office. He says, "I went to one of their meetings above the convenience store, and all you see is these people, and you see a monkey, the mask, and stuff like that. But you never see Jeffrey. So where is he then?"
You should watch Fire Walk with Me and crank it. Get it, or see it in the theater if you can, because it really, the audio opened up a layer of that movie.
You're rewatching this. Are you seeing it with fresh eyes?
Yeah, it was interesting. I had not watched Fire Walk with Me since season 3 ended, so it really did kind of feel like fresh eyes, and that was a cool experience for me. It's a film that I felt like I could quote word for word, but just having gone through the experience of living through season 3 and then coming back to this film, it felt really fresh, and it was a cool experience.
Wow.
And
so
now,
you guys want to hear an interesting Fire Walk with Me story?
Yes.
So I watched the film 2 or 3 weeks ago in preparation for this article, and that night, as soon as I got done, I immediately opened my laptop and I started writing maybe the first paragraph or two. And I had my ceiling fan on because I'm in the upstairs and it gets kind of hot up there, but I need the downstairs to be warm for my sons. And my ceiling fan starts making this really awkward noise. And I'm kind of like, okay, that's weird. And I'm writing about Fire Walk with Me, and the ceiling fan's making this noise. And then all of a sudden, through the baby monitor, I hear my youngest son start talking in his sleep. And the ceiling fan got louder, completely scared the hell out of me, and I had to stop writing.
Oh, my God. That's crazy.
That is creepy.
Man.
So
It's really
I
creepy.
have not admitted that to anyone until now.
Oh my gosh, that is really creepy.
Hearing voices through a baby monitor of any kind is
Yes.
creepy.
And sometimes those
So
baby
I was done
monitors.
for the night after
Yeah,
that.
I would be too. Yeah, some of those baby monitors sometimes pick up other like frequencies, and they can kind of like you can hear other like when my kids were younger, I had the baby monitor. It's like, what is this sound? What's
Oh
going
my
on in my
God.
children's bedroom?
That's frightening.
That is creepy. Maybe it's a sign to like call it a night after that.
See, but now you guys have me wanting to like rent out a theater here in Cincinnati just so I can watch Firewalk with me in a theater.
That would be awesome.
Well, you'll see it pop up here or there that Firewalk Me is playing somewhere.
Yeah,
You know?
when we went to it's an independent theater, and it wasn't on film. They actually were using the Blu-ray,
Blu-ray,
and stuff,
yeah.
but it was
Okay.
amazing. It was
Yes.
still amazing to
Nice.
see.
Yeah.
And you've got another article that you're putting out on 25 Years Later's site. What's that?
Yeah. So every Sunday we do this feature called Favorites, and it's usually like a top 5 list or a top 10 list, and it can really be about anything. But I signed up for the favorites that will come out on the actual Twin Peaks Day, the 24th of February, and I was like, well, I want to do my top 5 Laura Palmer moments. It felt fitting, and it was really hard to choose because there are so many good ones, even though, like we alluded to earlier, she's not in that much of season 1 and 2, so
Yeah.
a lot of it was from Fire Walk with Me. But to pick my top 5 favorite Laura moments was pretty fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. You could do some Maddie, favorite Maddie moments.
That might have to be my next one, top 5 Maddie moments. And number one, of course, would have to be the Cherry Coke.
Yep.
So this whole month, 25 Years Later's site is really focused on Twin Peaks. How's that going? What can you share about that?
It was probably around Thanksgiving I started, because I try to plan out content and promotion a few months ahead of time. And around Thanksgiving, I was like, all right, what am I going to do for Twin Peaks Day this year? Last year, we were pretty successful in terms of just putting out a lot of themed content and stuff like that, and had a lot of people on social media talking, and I knew that I had to top it. And, the site has changed and grown so much in the past year. I mean, last year we were still predominantly Twin Peaks and dipping our toes in other things. And now we're a full-blown TV film site. So I said to myself, like, okay, well, I need a way to really acknowledge where the site's roots and where we came from and the people that created the site, basically.
Yeah.
So the Twin Peaks month was born. I want to do this every year. This is the first annual Twin Peaks month, where every February it's going to get bigger and bigger.
That's
Nice.
awesome. That is so cool.
Yeah. And
So I think we have 26 original articles coming out this February.
Wow.
So that's a pretty massive undertaking. And then we're also revisiting a lot of older content. I mean, our vaults are huge. It's like Prince kind of vaults. We've got tons of stuff. So I sat down, and over the course of 6-7 days, I picked out 2 articles to share every day, which was really hard because we had so much good stuff. And I wanted to make sure that we had theories represented and interviews represented and just general analysis, and just picking out 2 a day for the month of February was really difficult. But I'm already focused on next year, and Ben, I'll go ahead and tell our secrets. Ben and I talk all the time, and I've been sharing some of my ideas with Ben.
I'm excited. I love it. I love that you're always thinking these new things. It's like, oh, why do I have to wait a whole nother year for this stuff?
So yeah, I mean, I'm already focused on next year, and I really want this to be a thing that everybody is a part of. It might have started with 25 years later, but my goal is for Twin Peaks Month to be something that the entire community celebrates, and that it's not just known as a 25 years later thing. And with the big goal of being, a lot of Twin Peaks fans have kind of moved on, and they're not talking about Twin Peaks as much as they used to, and the goal would be February is kind of that time where everybody comes back.
Nice.
I
And,
like that.
we're all talking and we're all celebrating and we're all hanging out online, and, whether it's podcasts like you guys do, websites like ours, everybody involved. And then people can kind of go their own ways the rest of the year if they have other things they want to participate in or other fandoms they're active in. But February, everybody comes back to Twin Peaks. That's my big goal.
I like that.
Yeah, it's great.
And I think you guys are already really good at being engaged with the community, and I think you've done a great job of bringing in these new writers and people that I think have just been involved with Twin Peaks community already. That now, you now have them as writers has been wonderful. I think it's great.
Yeah, I mean, that aspect is really blowing my mind. Just how many people have wanted to join us. People whose work I admired long before I started 25 years later. So that was very humbling and very flattering that people who have established names and established bodies of work wanted to join us.
That's awesome.
So cool.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Now it's gonna be like Christmas, right? You get all excited. January comes. I can't wait till February. It's gonna be like Christmas every year. You get so excited for it.
I know, right? You have Christmas in December, and then only a few months later we get Twin Peaks month.
I know, it's great.
I'm so glad you're putting out some of your older content this month as well, because I see a lot of your stuff, but every once in a while I might miss something, and it's like I look at it, it's like, oh, this was a few months ago, and I missed it. And I get to read it, and it's always incredible work that your writers put out.
Thank you. That is kind of the downside to us putting out so much stuff, is that a lot of times work does get lost. So revisiting the older stuff is definitely imperative to what we do.
In your webpage, I know you're going to go through some changes soon, but the layout is fantastic. I love the fact that I can search by someone I like that writes, like John Bernardi or whoever, or I can just type in Twin Peaks. But I love how you have it all categorized and everything. I think the layout is wonderful. And I was saying to Lindsay and Laura, I think your page, because of the news, now we get the news from you, I kind of look at it, entertainment news. It's like the Entertainment Weekly. It's better than Entertainment Weekly.
Yep, that's what he says. He wants you could quote us. It's better than
Entertainment Weekly. I subscribe to Entertainment Weekly.
As do I, yes.
And Ben and myself, we've probably been readers of Entertainment Weekly since we're teenagers.
Yes.
The X-Files issues.
Yes, but there was even an article on Wrapped in Plastic and Twin Peaks, and I would rip it out and wow, Wrapped in Plastic magazine was featured, and it's been going on for a long time. But I think maybe we're getting older now, and you go through Entertainment Weekly's don't care, and then you find a few articles and a few things that are good. With 25 years later site, there's so much stuff that is
I care about.
And it's like, I do really love Legion, and I really do like these movies that you guys are talking about, and it's good stuff.
Thank you.
I think it's because you're closer to interests are also, but also I think you guys have your hand on the pulse of the internet when it comes to what's popular, what's good, and what's happening. Where I feel Entertainment Weekly's print media, where they wrote that last month. And we're just getting it. And we're and some of the stuff, it's like, it's just, I don't care about some of this stuff, but I think your webpage is like the one-stop shop. And you can, when you guys go print in the future, you can put a quote from us, better than Entertainment Weekly.
Well, that's definitely the coolest compliment we've ever got, so thank you for that. I guess the best way to explain 25 years later is that even though we write about a lot more than Twin Peaks, it's always through the vantage point of what would Twin Peaks fans be interested in.
Yes.
What other shows, what other films. And when you start to think about it, Twin Peaks fans are pretty diverse. There's horror films, for example. There's a lot of Twin Peaks fans that love horror films, so that's felt like a natural progression. But then Twin Peaks fans also love shows that would be considered golden age of television. Yeah. So that was a natural progression. So next thing you know, we're writing about all this different stuff, but it's all within the wheelhouse of things that people like us enjoy.
Yeah,
definitely.
I think
I hope you guys will cover the Twilight Zone, the new Twilight Zone on CBS Access, because
I saw the trailer.
I'm intrigued by it. I'm really excited. April 1st. Who knows?
We will. We do have a writer assigned to it. We try to look at new shows that are coming out for the whole year and map out, hey, what show do you want to take? So, for example, I can't recall off the top of my head who's claimed that show, but The Watchmen on HBO this year. That's
very excited for
Bernardi.
Oh, John Bernardi's doing The Watchmen?
That is so.
John and I, and actually we have a few other people that are interested. We've kind of formed our Watchmen team because we feel like that's going to be a show that we can really dive into.
Yeah.
And there's no date for that yet, right? There's no actual.
They haven't announced anything.
It's supposed to be this year. That's all we know.
Yeah, it's this year. We're guessing summertime after Game of Thrones, but that's purely a guess.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Well, you have Westworld, so it's going to be Game of Thrones, Westworld, and then it could. Yeah, unless Westworld's going to be in the fall.
Westworld is probably not going to be until 2020.
Oh wow, they're taking the year off.
There's a pretty big gap there. My assumption is that after Game of Thrones is Watchmen, but I could be completely wrong about that.
No, I mean that sounds right because they'll keep the hype train going.
Right, and they can promote it during Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very excited for the end of the Game of Thrones. I'm excited to see how it's going to end.
Well, Laura is actually going to be the one covering Game of Thrones for us this year.
Oh, nice! That's very exciting.
So, I'm pretty excited about that. Are you guys watching True Detective?
We were just we were talking about that later on.
No, who are we talking with? That Lindsay or Laura? Or who?
Probably Laura.
It must have been Laura. Yeah.
Laura.
We have not started yet. I'm intrigued, and I just gotta find time when my wife will watch it with me. But
yeah, I'm waiting for it to end. And
I
then
will
I'll
probably
watch
watch it
thing.
soon. The problem is that there's just so much TV, but
Yeah.
it's on my list of shows to watch. But what do you think of it so far?
I love it. It's my favorite show currently on.
Nice. That's good to hear. We were talking before. I mean, I think season 1 was just so good, and then season 2 was just okay.
And I'm the only one that likes season 2.
Ben's the only one who
I don't
likes
like it
it.
as much as season 1, but I thought it was still good. And I
still don't know what happened. But season 3, I think a lot of people were apprehensive to go into season 3. A lot of my friends who loved 1 and hated 2 were just kind of like, I hope it's good.
Yeah.
And I feel like because TV, there's just so much on and so much streaming at this point, I feel like not a lot of people are talking about True Detective as they were about 1.
Right.
But I feel like once the show ends and the word is good, I think a lot of people will watch it like myself. I'm going to wait and I'll just binge it in a weekend or a week or something. But
I've had a blast with it. Laura and I are trading off writing about it each week, and it's been a lot of fun to theorize about. It's a return to form, so to speak, in terms of quality, but it's also its own story. It's not a blatant ripoff of season 1, which I really appreciate.
Yeah. That's great to hear. Now, is there anything you're watching or that you're not covering that's something you're really into right now?
Besides True Detective, I'm really only watching children's shows.
What's your favorite children's show?
Oh, man. I have
lots of kids shows.
Yes. And when my kids are up, there's a lot of kids shows as well. And yeah. I hear you. Oh.
I mean, it's a pretty busy life running 25 years later.
Yeah.
I do watch True Detective on Sundays, typically write about it Monday nights so it can be published on Tuesday. And then I try to watch TV that is not exactly mind-melting the rest of the week.
Yeah.
Just so I can kind of stay focused. But I do spend most of my evenings planning and looking up what's coming out and working with the writers and editors and all that fun behind-the-scenes stuff that is too boring to talk about. Is what I do.
You do have a new site launching soon, don't you?
Yes, the tentative date is mid-March. We were shooting for the 23rd, and it's really exciting just because of how much bigger it is. It's and I appreciate Brian's kind words earlier about our layout. We're going to be hopefully taking all of those characteristics that you like and the organization that you like of the site and just making it bigger. It's giving us a lot more capabilities in terms of what we can do and kind of taking us to that next step forward. I bought this little website space a few years ago thinking that it would just be me writing about Twin Peaks. And now there's 55 of us.
Wow.
And we're doing 5-6 articles a day sometimes. And so we needed to grow. We needed more space and we needed more capability. And, we do want to be considered competition for the big guys. You compared us to Entertainment Weekly, like that's who I want to be in the same breath with a few years from now. And it's a lofty goal, but everything that we've ever done has been a lofty goal. And dream big.
Well, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
How exciting! It's really, you guys are. I mean, like I always say, I'm so impressed that you guys always seem to change with the times. Like you guys are always reinventing yourself, and then like I really think it's kind of like the MTV model. At least that's used to be. MTV always believed in every few years they change themselves. I don't know if they do that as much now, but I'm impressed that you guys are always kind of going with the next thing.
Yeah, evolving,
yeah.
I tend to live in the future a little bit in terms of planning. Like I talked about how I'm already working on next year's Twin Peaks Day, and that's kind of my role with the site, is to be the one that's thinking 6 months, a year from now, and what's the next big thing for us. And we have this cool setup now where in the beginning it was just me but doing everything, but now I have this amazing group of people that I'm working with. And you talked to Lindsay and you talked to Laura earlier, and there's a few other really, really key people that just make my job easier, that they're taking care of a lot of the day-to-day stuff so I can work on the big picture. And nice. I am so grateful for the team that I have. They love this site as much as I do. And it allows us to constantly be reinventing ourselves and to constantly grow. I don't have to worry about a lot of the in the moment kind of stuff, because I know that Laura or Lindsay or Paul or JC or one of those guys is completely capable of taking care of those things, and I can focus on my crazy dreams for a year from now for us.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we can't wait to see what you do next.
The dream team.
Yeah.
You guys, you got the dream team.
You really do. So, Andrew, can you share with us how can people go to your site and how can they follow you and your team?
25yearslatersite.com is our address. You can find us on Twitter at 25yearslatersite. I believe that's also the name of our Facebook page. And we have an Instagram account by the same name as well.
Awesome.
Nice.
Well, thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, thank you.
So we are talking with Caemeron Crain. He's got a new article out from 25 Years Later site talking about Jean Renault was right, how Cooper brought the nightmare. Hi, Caemeron.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good. So yeah, we've been talking. This whole past month has been Twin Peaks month, especially with 25 Years Later site, and we've been talking to all the different writers. And so good we get to talk to you at the end of the month here.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I've listened to you guys talking to John and Laura and Lindsay.
So this is a great article. I love there's definitely things that we've talked about on our show, and you've found these links that I never thought of, and it's really an interesting article. Can you share with us how you came up with the idea to write this?
Oh, yeah, thanks so much, first of all. I guess in terms of how it came about, it's mostly, I've had a bunch of the ideas just kind of bouncing around forever. And, did the podcast with Mike when the show was on, during Full and Descend and everything. And there we just kind of, we tended to analyze things without really endorsing a view for the most part, I guess. Yeah. But I've clearly been thinking about all of this stuff for a while. So really, I guess, with this article, the idea came about 25 years later that we were going to have Twin Peaks month, right? And look for some new stuff to put out. And so I floated this idea. I just kind of floated the headline, first of all. This Jean Renault was right. And there was interest, so I said, okay, well, let me see if it writes. And as I wrote it, I really found all this stuff I've been thinking about gelled in a certain way. And that was really cool, actually, to put it together.
Yeah. And him being right is that Cooper brought the nightmare with him, that he brought this evil. And you guys...
Yeah. That's sort of the conceit of it, or, I thought of that as sort of the hook of it.
Before you came here, Twin Peaks was a simple place. My brothers dealt up to the teenagers and the truck drivers. One-eyed Jack welcomed the businessmen and the tourists. Quiet people lived a quiet life. Then, a pretty girl died. And you arrive, and everything changed. My brother Bernardo, shot, and left to die in the woods. A grieving father smothered my remaining brother with the pillow. Kidnapping, death, Suddenly, the quiet people, they're quiet no more. Suddenly, the simple dream become the nightmare. So, if you die, maybe you will be the last to die. Maybe you brought the nightmare with you. And maybe the nightmare will die with you.
It's not really about Jean Renault. I've been playing with this idea for a while that the way to read the whole ending and some other stuff is that Cooper splintered time, basically. Right? So I've had that impression, I've read some stuff, of course, going back to when the show ended, that seemed a bit more optimistic, like Cooper was winning or something. And I always thought, no, this is not a happy ending. So I've been playing with that idea, and then, as I said, a number of other things, and I found as I started writing, they really started coming together. So thanks for what you said. I'm pretty proud of the piece. I think it's good. I hope people read it.
Yeah, and so you broke it down into sections, and the first section is there's only one Dale Cooper, which I think is interesting. Yeah. I mean, like, I've gone back and forth and wondered that myself, but it's hard to think that means he's a rapist, and that means he's done some really bad things, and that's always hard to our hero. It's hard to think of him as a bad guy.
Yeah, I thought that might make some people hate me. But that's why I said up front, I love Dale Cooper. Like, I presume that if you watch the show, you love Dale Cooper. So I agree. It is a hard thought. But, I mean, and the point is, it's not that there's no difference necessarily. It's just that at the end of the day, I do argue that what we're dealing with are, like, aspects of Dale Cooper. It's not some strong, metaphysical distinction, I guess is the point.
Yeah. Remind me again about your podcast that you've done. So these are elements. With some of these ideas come from when you were doing your podcast?
A bit. It's weird, actually. I mean, Mike Wilson and I, we were doing Drink Full and Descend, or I guess technically we still are. We started recently. We started talking about surrealism as a historical movement, an art movement, philosophical movement, but we've gone pretty slow, and life keeps getting in the way. So we have a few things on that we need to pick up again sometime, hopefully soon. The Twin Peaks stuff is all still up, and it's interesting to me. I've gone back a couple of times where, for whatever reason, I went and hit play on one of our old things again. And, I've been surprised that, at various points, I've been surprised that we were already talking about what we were talking about. We were going episode by episode.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the thoughts that fed into this are there in one way or another. This just kind of puts them together, and it makes an argument, which I never really, when we were doing the podcast, never really strongly argued for an interpretation of the show.
There's an interesting part of your article, if you want to elaborate more for our audience. The Dale Cooper broke time and trapped Audrey between realities. The Audrey thing... Yeah. It's interesting you brought it up and you connect it with the that web page, that the search for the zone, and I think Audrey's lack of presence and then what we got of her has really intrigued a lot of fans, and including us, who we counted the days down until she showed up, and then we were all perplexed and had no idea. Explain to everybody your theory about Audrey in this Dale Cooper breaking time.
I almost feel like this is almost a step short of a theory. But I guess my basic thought, and what I put in the piece there, is that Audrey is, and what we see of her, represents her being basically like trapped between realities. Because of what Cooper did, is what I claim, right?
Yeah.
And if you think about the impact of Cooper on Audrey's life, I thought this makes sense, right? Not just what we see with him and Audrey in the original run, but, now we know that his doppelganger, Mr. C, is Richard's father and all of that. And I guess, raped her when she was in a coma and all of that. So if then, when Cooper's like going back to the past, as we see at the end. I mean, I guess there's a question about exactly how this works, but I guess the thing that got me thinking was, how would it impact Audrey's life if Dale Cooper had never come to Twin Peaks? massively. Yes?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
I mean, other people less so. So it got me thinking that this is one way to read the Audrey stuff, and particularly the one line that sort of caught in my mind is when she asks Charlie, "Which one should I be?
Oh.
Or which one would you be?" Doesn't say what would you do. Which one would you be?
Interesting.
And your next section is Bob was always with Cooper, and I love that you mentioned about from season 2 where Cooper is whistling the same song as Leland, which I've always, after seeing the whole series through season 2, I remember thinking that was kind of interesting that they were somehow connected, and maybe they are connected through Bob.
Yeah, actually, that's something that I feel like I didn't fully consciously notice until relatively recently. By which I mean, like, it may have been when The Return was airing and I was rewatching the original show that it really stuck out to me, you know? And I mean, I guess you could maybe contend that he's not whistling the same song, but he's whistling something and it sounds to me like it's the same song. So you're on board with that?
I would say definitely. I
Yeah.
mean, I would say 25 years ago I thought that. So I mean, I definitely think 100%. I think he is whistling the same song. And I mean, coincidence. Originally, I thought it was just coincidence, but then after seeing it by the end of the series of season 2, it seemed to be definitely that a link.
Yeah, I think when I watched the show for the first time, I caught on that,
Yeah.
and I know Dale said he was a strong sender, so
He might be a strong receiver too,
as well. Yeah.
No, you're right. I think maybe I used to read it more along those lines, like he was just picking up on something.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what I mean. I think it started to strike me in the way that I put it here, more as I was rewatching when I was watching Return. I guess that's what I meant. I was like, wow, this is maybe showing that there's some kind of connection between Dale Cooper and Bob, and in some sense, maybe there always was, or something like that. You know.
And I still think about the idea, is Bob just the evil that men do and stuff? Like, is it this kind of energy of just evilness that that is within people that they're just bad people sometimes? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it seems clear to me that at least within the narrative of the show, it's more than that. I mean, or I kind of think Bob does represent that, but also here we're getting a story where it is embodied in a character that really does seem to have its own, being or something like that. But I've always thought that doesn't let Leland off the hook, So here I'm also saying I don't think it lets Dale off the hook.
Wow, our good Cooper is a rapist. And it's hard to swallow that, but then you see episode 18 and he's in bed with Diane and she's trying to cover his face, and that's a very awkward sex scene. And I kind of think, I always feel like she's not comfortable being with him because he raped her or something.
I really still don't know what to do with that scene. I shrug and think, like, maybe sex magic? I don't really know.
Yeah, I go with that Yes, I'm glad you brought sex magic up, because I agree with it. Because it goes back to, it goes back
Mark
to
Frost's
book.
I'll buy that for $1.
But I mean, yes, okay, but still then, I don't quite know what to say. I think the sex magic is supposed to do. So I don't feel like I've gotten very far. But,
I mean, I wanted to believe that is a portal. It opened up a portal, because when Cooper does get up, he's no longer in the same place. So
he's Richard.
Whether he's Richard, I still want to believe he's Cooper, but because he doesn't know, he doesn't understand the letter. Like, he's like, who are these people that she's saying, or Linda and Richard?
Right.
But he comes out. So to me, it's a portal. Maybe he's actually in another place now.
Yeah.
And that ritual.
But if that was the goal of the sex magic, then why is he so befuddled? I don't know. That's
true. Right.
It's sort of like when he is Dougie. When Dougie is trying to figure out who he is, it's another layer. Maybe it goes back to another theory, from 25 years later, but maybe John Bernard's article, but like a layered cake. So you had this whole Cooper life that he tried to, all these things woke him up, and he finally figured it out, and he woke up. But now he's in another layer of another world of another person. So now he's confuddled because he doesn't know he's Richard. but he is.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know what year it is. He doesn't know why. How come Laura is now Carrie Page?
Right.
How come Judy, which is this weird, we don't know what Judy is, all of a sudden Judy's a diner. And Twin Peaks does not look like the Twin Peaks now. It looks like the old
diner, everything. Right.
Everything looks different. So yeah, I don't know.
I know we're going on a tangent, but
that's what Twin Peaks is good for. Tangent.
And the only thing I want to bring up is that I still want to know where that black and white scene with the giant and Cooper fit into this whole thing, where he's sitting down and he's like, okay, Richard and Linda, the numbers, and Cooper's like, yeah, I understand, I get it. And it's like, I want to believe it really happens between him in the coma and waking up in the hospital. But then, like, why doesn't he understand the note that, to Richard and Linda? Like,
what if that scene of him sitting in black and white has no time? We know the lodge has no relevance in time or space. So if him just sitting there and the record is going, maybe he's just getting this information and things are playing out in these other worlds and he's just absorbing it, and then all of a sudden he just knows and he can leave.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like black and white world is a non-time descript world.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I mean, some of the things we're talking about, it is maybe a bit of a tangent, but I do hit on some of these things in the piece where we started. So we have something to say. I mean, first of all, I hit on it. I don't really, I think, go into this, but that scene you're talking about, Cooper says, "I understand," and the giant or fireman replies, "You are far away," which I moved to interpret as meaning you're far away from understanding.
Oh.
Like you're not enlightened or whatever. And I do also, I hit on the Richard thing, right? There's this idea that it's about like the creation of Tulpas kind of slicing a bit of you off.
So the next part, don't take the ring, Laura, which is always something everybody's like, the ring, the ring will help. We don't know about the ring. Explain your thought about this piece of the article.
I mean, that's just something I started puzzling about, particularly after season 3, or the return, as I continue to call it. From what we see of the ring there, and in particular, I guess the puzzle is, for me, what's going on and what the relationship is between Cooper and Philip Gerard. Because in the return, it seems like they're working together, right?
Yeah.
And if you go back to Fire Walk with Me, you have the scene where Cooper, says, "Don't take the ring, Laura." Philip Gerard is the one who throws in the ring.
Right.
So what was going on there was something that I guess I was trying to grapple with in that section. I thought I really had to kind of deal with that, and I ended up with this attempt, at least, about it having to do with the sort of power dynamic between Philip Gerard and Bob and Cooper, I guess. Which ultimately, again, I'm kind of, sorry everyone, I'm kind of putting Cooper on the wrong side of things. Right? Like, I've long had the view, and I know others have, it's been out there for the past 25 years, more than that now, right? That given how Laura said something about how Bob wants to either be her or kill her, and Leland screams out, "Don't make me do this," right after she puts on the ring in the train car. I basically long thought that putting on the ring was basically making him kill her, as opposed to Bob potentially being able to take her over. Or something like that.
It's true.
Yeah, or at least it's been a widely held thing, right?
Yeah.
So I still have that in my mind. And then I guess how I'm reading what's going on with Cooper is that he wants to save her, as if he can save her from the death itself, right? And she's still trapped in the lodge, but I basically am thinking that because of what Cooper did, as we see in, I guess it's in the end of part 17 originally, right? When he goes back in time. I basically think he's depriving her of that Fire Walk with Me ending with the angels.
Yeah.
And I think that's her best ending.
Yes, that's something we've said here too.
And regarding Gerard, I've always been puzzled with season 3 that he's always been called Gerard. There is no mention of Mike, and you think that it's Mike. I mean, I guess they could just be one and the same, and you kind of bring that up in your article that they're kind of one and the same. But it's kind of like in season 1 or season 2, Gerard was the human, and then Mike was the spirit, and it's just funny that I would have just assumed it would have been Mike in season 3. So I've always been puzzled by that.
Yeah, I recall the first time I noticed that he was credited as Philip Gerard in the credits.
Yeah.
There's like a lot of nice nuggets in those credits. They released like the first 4 parts, and I had to wait 2 weeks, so I watched them like several times. And one of those times I noticed, like, oh, that's something to think about.
Yeah.
But I don't think he was ever credited as Mike in the title card.
Ah.
He was credited as the one-armed man, I think.
Yeah.
I noticed that weirdly in Fire Walk with Me, he's credited as Philip Gerard, but with only one L.
Oh.
If you want to make hay of that in world, feel free. But all the other times it's with 2 L's. And I mean, I guess to the force of the question, I don't know. I never thought that it was quite the same with the Gerard Mike question, because even back then he says he was Mike, but it never quite felt to me like this was a possession thing, like it was with Bob and Wheatland. Because he looks the same in the lodge and outside of the lodge.
Yeah. But I think he says he's there's a host and a parasite and all that. But you're right.
Yeah.
It isn't. Maybe it's not quite the same.
Does he? I don't know. I'd have to go back to that scene.
Yeah.
All I recall is he calls Bob his familiar.
Yes.
Right. Like.
Right.
He's the warlock, and Bob's like his cat. Right. So I mean, and then the whole bit about the arm. He cut the arm off, and then in the lodge we see the arm, which I guess maybe it was Fire Walk with Me that did that.
I think I am the arm. Yeah.
I am the arm. So part of me wants to say that there's that one scene towards the end of Fire Walk with Me where Michael J. Anderson puts his hand on Al Strobel's shoulder.
Yeah.
Where the arm's missing. And they say, Bob, I want all my Garmin Bosia. Part of me thinks that's Mike. Both of them together.
Wow.
Yeah.
I could see that.
And I think I gestured at it in the article. I actually think that question of how do we interpret Philip Gerard, I think is a really difficult one. So I hit on it in here, and I just moved on, I guess, because I think that could be a piece all its own.
Definitely.
And your next section is It's Freddy's Destiny. And I think I think we have mixed feelings. I think in the community about Freddy. I mean, like maybe I know I do that. Like, why didn't Cooper get to witness Mr. C and them have a confrontation? He's already dead or he's already gone by the time he gets there. And then it's Cooper that doesn't stop Bob. And I always hoped that Laura would have stopped Bob. But it's Freddy with his green glove that comes in and saves the day.
It's a weird thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's Lucy who shoots the Mr. C, there's doppelganger.
I like that. I like Lucy.
I like that a lot.
I like that a lot. I think that's really she stepped it up. I like that a lot. But
and it redeemed for me the cell phone thing, because when I first saw the cell phone thing, I thought that was dumb.
Yeah,
but it works.
Yeah.
I think
the end redeemed it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think when that cell phone scene came out, I was perplexed going, this is not Lucy from the original series. She's not that dumb. Like,
yeah, exactly.
What did she, disappear for 25 years and not know what technology is totally? But
at the same time, this has always been something they've thought about. Like I've said in the missing pieces of Fire Walk with Me, she has an intercom thing where she's calling Harry and Andy, and then they come upstairs and she's shocked.
But cell phones have been around for 10 years.
I know, but she can't even handle the intercom. She can't even understand that.
I still think it was weird.
10 years is not the cell phones have been around for 20 years.
20 years, yeah.
Gosh, right.
But I'm just saying, it was just an odd thing. It reminded me when X-Files came back and Mulder was kind of weird about smartphones. And I'm like, what? You guys are acting like you just discovered technology. This is not normal. This is bad writing. But yeah,
there was a lot of bad writing in the new X-Files.
There was. Yeah.
There was some really good writing, though, I will say. The one episode about the lost art of forehead sweat, I think that redeemed the whole thing for me.
Which one is that one? I don't know. I like the Bernstein Bears one.
Yeah, that was a good one. The Bernstein Bears.
I'm talking about the Mandela Effect one.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. That was great.
Yeah,
I thought that was great.
Yeah, they did have some shining moments. It was, but yeah. The Lucy thing, that ending did, I think we're all with you on that one. It redeemed her.
Yeah, I thought it redeemed the whole idea, right? Because at that point, when she's like, I understand cell phones now, you're like, yay, Lucy.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think the point of Freddy's part in this?
Well, I guess part of what I thought was interesting is the clear decision to have it be not Cooper, right? It's not, we don't directly get there a confrontation between the two Coopers, which I imagine almost everyone else thought was where we were going.
Right.
Instead, by the time Cooper gets there, the other Cooper has been shot already. And I like, too, I mean, in terms of going back to my there's only one Dale Cooper thing.
Yeah.
You get the line there where Hawk, who seems tuned into shit, says, but that is Cooper, right?
Mm-hmm. So
I like that too. But as far as Freddy goes, I don't know. I always enjoyed the scene. Personally, it gets a bit ridiculous, but the other thing that I was hitting on in that section is when Freddy's talking to James, he tells him the story about the fireman, right?
Yes.
We don't see that. We see Andy interact, so we might think that it was the same sort of thing going on with Freddy. Potentially,
right. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Or I don't know, maybe not. Like it could well have been someone else saying that they were the firemen. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think I said yes. It could have been Gerard. It could have been maybe Cooper himself.
Right.
Cooper does recognize Freddy somehow. We don't have any further information as to how he can say, "Oh, you're Freddy."
And I guess it goes back to how like Jeffries calls Mr. C on the phone. Is that really Jeffries? Or is it something?
Yeah.
I mean, we have people who are maybe pretending to be other people.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, it's a similar ambiguity. And I guess the other big reason for that section is that I suggest in there that we don't see Bob being destroyed. We see Bob being like shattered and dispersed.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. And maybe he can't die. I mean, is there...
The evil can't die, yeah.
Yeah, right? How do you think he somehow destroyed evil? Now he's just got dispersed shards of evil all over the place,
Yep.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So it is interesting to think about that if Mr. C and Cooper are one and the same, maybe they can't fight each other because they are, right? Like, I think that's what you're saying, is that they're really one person. So how could they really fight each other?
Like they can't be in the same place at the same time or something almost?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if that fully goes through, but maybe.
Well, kind of with the whole at the beginning, supposedly Cooper wasn't supposed to leave the lodge until Mr. C returned.
Yeah, I think Mr. C would have had total control over him. If they had seen each other, I think Mr. C could have easily put him back in the lodge. Because, he wasn't supposed to come out. There was these rules in place. So I think technically, I don't think maybe they were not supposed to be together. Because I think that would have been the end game for Cooper there. That would have been done deal.
Does that mean it could go the other way? Like, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
True,
maybe that's
maybe
why
true.
Freddy
Right.
was created to make this middle person to do the dirty work.
Yeah.
Well, but again, Freddy apparently was to fight Bob. Lucy shot Doppel Cooper, Mr. C.
Yeah,
Good point.
that's true.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then Lucy's put in place by Andy, which was put in place by the firemen.
Right.
So I mean, all these people, they were all put in place like like playing a big game of chess.
It's true.
Yeah.
I should have said, or I meant to say at least at some point here, so I'll do it now. Even with this Jean Renault piece, I hope people read it, and I'm pretty proud of what I put together here. But even for me, I don't think of this as even my definitive ultimate read of Twin Peaks. I don't know if I'll ever really have one of those,
Yeah.
It's almost more of an exercise for me to try to put together this thing and for it to be coherent. And this is where I'm at right now. But certainly there are other ways to read this, and I think part of what's so exciting and part of why so many of us remain so into Twin Peaks for years and years and years is how it's readable in various ways, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, your article is awesome. I mean, recommend to everybody to go read it. I mean, what you've done is I'm jealous of everybody who can do this because it's something I can't do. And like I think you put it down beautifully. Like it's coherent. I love their sections. I love the way it's structured. I feel like nobody really has a definitive answer to anything Lynch, especially Lynch. But I mean, I think it's great when you and everybody else 25 years later put these articles together because it gets the Twin Peaks brain cells moving, and sometimes it makes others think of it in a different way, which is always good.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of the fun. And so thanks for what you say again. And yeah, I mean, you mentioned, the attempt at something like a comprehensive theory, what John Bernardi put out last month, which you guys talked about on here.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, and he's clearly attempting that, but yeah, I read that and I think, well, this is really interesting. This is really interesting to think about,
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to keep thinking in other ways,
Yeah.
Part of what's so cool is how we can do that.
Totally.
Yeah,
I think that what's great about Twin Peaks is that you think you understand it one way, and then 5 years later, 10 years later, 25 years later, you say, "Wow, I look at this a whole different way." And I think that's the fun of the show.
You can just start somewhere else, as it were, and then end up somewhere entirely different.
Yeah. Great job with the article.
Well, Cameron, thank you so much for your time and a wonderful article. I really recommend everybody go to 25 Years Later site and check out your article. And
where can they find you on social media?
So I'm on Twitter. It's at Caemeron CC. My name's spelled weird though, so it's at CAEMERON CC. That's me on Twitter.
And I hope you put out another episode of Drinkful and Descent.
Yeah, thanks. We've been, as I said, it's just been a matter of coordinating our schedules and all the other stuff we have going on. And Mike made a film. I'll plug Mike's film briefly, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
A short film that just he finished recently. It's called Lamentations, and he put it up. I think it's on Vimeo and YouTube. So it'd be Mike Wilson, Lamentations. Seems straightforward enough. I thought it was really cool when I watched it, honestly.
Nice.
So hopefully that works out. I know he's been talking about sending it to some festivals and stuff like that. It's only, I don't know,
That'd be great.
7-8 minutes long, something like that.
Nice.
But it's pretty good. Yeah,
Awesome.
it's really good.
Cool.
Well, thank you so much, Cameron.
Yeah, thank you.
I hope we have you on again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, guys. It's been nice talking to you.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Cameron, for being on this week's show to round out our Twin Peaks month here in 25 Years Later site and Twin Peaks Unwrapped. Our little joint venture we
Our
had
little
this
partnership
month.
that we had, yeah.
And next year we'll do the same thing. And it was so great. We kind of started it early with John Bernardi on.
But John actually, you say that, but we actually started the first week with John. So I mean,
I know because of the overlapping
behind
months.
Behind the scenes, we recorded with John earlier, but he actually ended up being the first week of February.
Yeah, so it was great. It all worked out. It was a fantastic month. I think what they did is fantastic. I love how they're so inclusive of getting the community involved, and we hope to be part of this again next year. And I had a great time. And I think it was a great way for us to get back into the mindset of Twin Peaks because we took such a long break from it, which felt like because of vacation and the holiday.
Right. I mean, on the air, I mean, for everybody else, it seemed like months of on the air, and for us, we were on vacation. So yeah, it was great to come back to this.
Yeah, definitely. We got a lot of interesting things happening behind the scenes, some interesting shows that are be coming up in March. You might not hear us every week.
Yeah, we might start going bi-weekly. I mean, we'll see. We might just slow down a little bit. That doesn't mean we're not interested in Twin Peaks. We just got other things we're doing. But
so don't unscribe to us. Keep the enthusiasm alive. We're going to put a show out at least every 2 weeks.
Yes.
At least. You'll hear from us every 2 weeks. And if you get a little bit more of us, that's a bonus. Bonus. So we love the comments. We love the questions. We love the theories. You can send all those to us at twinpeaksunwrapped@gmail.com. Subscribe to us on iTunes. give us that 5-star review. We've kind of slowed down on the reviews on iTunes. It would be great if we got a little bit more on there.
It means a lot. It really does, because that's how people find us. That's how people can listen to our podcast by seeing what other people think about it. So review us, give us those 5 stars, please.
Yes, please, and thank you. We're on Google Play. We're on Spotify. Actually, the numbers on Spotify have been going up, which I'm very impressed by.
That's exciting.
Very exciting. So when you're on your Xbox or PlayStation, you're kicking butt in a video game, you can put us on in the background on Spotify. And Spotify is getting into the podcast game. I mentioned this before, but they have acquired a podcast platform that I don't think was very well known, but they're bringing that in, and I think we get to be on the ground floor. There's not a lot of podcasts on Spotify right now. I mean, like a handful.
Yes.
But they don't have it separate like iTunes, where iTunes, podcasts and music. And I think Spotify is really going to be a big competitor when it comes to that ear space, I guess we'll call it.
Yeah, exciting times.
It's very exciting, and I'm glad we get to be part of that with Spotify. We're on Stitcher. All your favorite podcast players, we're there. You can find us, subscribe to us. YouTube, we hit over 1,000 subscriptions, right?
Yay, thank you, YouTube.
Yeah, very awesome. Subscribe and hit the little bell, and our shows go up there automatically when they drop, which is really cool. With all that being said, like us on the old Facebook. I got Facebook going. We're always on fire. I'm putting the memes up. People love the memes.
Love the memes. I got to do that. I got to copy you. I don't know what. We're not in sync. You're doing this cool stuff, and I'm just laying back.
I'll be all honest. I'm a lurker on the old Reddit Twin Peaks page. I do post now and again, but I'm a big lurker. Sometimes someone will post something really cool, or I'll find something and I'll put it on Facebook, and I get to I'll share that love.
Fun.
Yeah, it's fun, and I think Facebook has gotten it's interesting now. I think a lot of people are hanging out more and enjoying the Twin Peaks love on Facebook.
Definitely.
How's Twitter going?
Twitter's awesome. I mean, there's a great crowd of people there, and I actually really get a kick out of Kyle MacLachlan. He still seems to show a lot of Twin Peaks love for the community.
Yeah.
I actually feel like he's done it more now that the series is over, or even, I don't know, he seems
because he can talk about it.
He can talk about it. So he's great. And I mean, and I love our community, and everybody's always bringing so much interesting stuff, whether it's artwork or just finds or theories, and it's a cool place to hang.
Nice. All right. Well, with that being said, we'll be back next week with maybe we'll be back next week with something special. So keep your podcast players tuned in.
See you next week.